our activity. And I'm Paul Zeitz. I'm not an organizer, but I'm an introducer. And I'm here to introduce Zvezda Stankova, who she and I have worked together for about 12 years. And when people ask me what my goal is with the Math Circle activities that I've been involved with, sometimes I give a kind of glib but not completely false answer and say that I'm trying to make the Bay Area more like Bulgaria. And one of the reasons it's a feasible project is we have actual Bulgarians such as Zvezda that are at the forefront of these activities. And in my opinion, Zvezda has been a real visionary who also has the endowment of being able to do the work of usually 3 or 4 people. And one of the many projects she's been involved with is the Berkeley Math Circle, which she has essentially organized and carried through for most of its existence, and that's what she's here to talk about today. So, welcome, Zvezda.
Hello, everyone. So you have the forbidden handout of 1 page, correct? Still don't turn it over yet. Anyone missing it, raise your hand. Can I have a helper out? Just leave them here. Okay, so we are going to talk about the Berkeley Math Circle, the American experience, and really what have we learned for about 12 years now. But for the board diehards, which I know there are some of you here that really want to do only math and organization, I will give you 3 problems. You can solve the 3 problems, and then for extra credit, build a Math Circle session around each problem. So a few questions to think about. What are the math areas, the math theory connected to this problem, problem-solving techniques, other related problems, generalizations, pushing on, and the very interesting last question, how many different Math Circle sessions do you envision per problem, and on what did you base your decision on? Okay. All right. First problem, you have an integer grid just in the first quadrant. You have 3 dots at the lower left corner. You put a barbed fence around them, and then you start pushing the dots in the following fashion. They clone. Did you see what happened? Dot clones up and to the right, and it cannot clone if there is a dot already in that cell. So at most 1 dot per cell. So we will call those cells, dots, clones. Okay. And what is the question? Can you free all clones from the prison? Now, this was introduced by Sam at the Berkeley Math Circle a few years ago, and it is in this book, a little bit of it at least, and we will talk about it, but this is one of your problems. Okay, next problem, infinite raffle. This is fresh from the Berkeley Math Circle from the last 2 sessions. So you have an infinite number of tickets, and on each of them you write a positive integer according to the rule. For every natural number n, the total number of tickets on which divisors of n are written is exactly n. So let me clarify. For n4, its divisors are 1, 2, and 4. So if I take all cards that have these divisors on them, these numbers, how many do you get a total of? 4. Okay? And so this works for every number, not just 4. And what we have to show looks pretty mild. Show that every number n appears on at least 1 ticket. Okay? So some of the kids that will be doing the math battle later in the afternoon already are pretty good at doing this problem because they've just finished doing it for 2 sessions at the Berkeley Math Circle. All right, last problem for those who like geometry. There is a triangle ABC. You draw these segments called Chevians from each of the vertices. They intersect in a point. And you form a smaller triangle, this blue triangle. So the problem is prove that P is the centroid of the big triangle ABC exactly when it's the centroid of the small triangle A1, B1, C1. Well, that's not a random problem. This was given at the Barre Math Olympiad a few years ago, and it made the headlines here, but later about that. Okay, so now, here is the wrap-up. You can flip over that sheet that I gave you if you really want to work on those. And for all the others, the few that are left, we shall continue with something else. Okay, what's that? That's a math circle. Okay. And every math circle has two components, major components for those of you who have tried to organize and run one. The organization, which you can think of as a nice building, and the actual mathematics there that fills in the space and makes what the math circle is all about. Now, if you try to put them together, you will get this book. Because this is really, the book is an implementation of what we have learned about the Berkeley Math Circle. So whatever thing here I say about the book, it's really about the math circle. You can translate this pretty easily. This book was published by AMS and MSRI jointly. It is the first book in the MSRI Mathematical Circles library. It is actually in the Mathematical Sciences Research Institute library outside. You can see it. It is edited by me and Tom Reich. Is Tom here? Yes, okay. And it's volume 1 because it has 2/3 for beginners, 1/3 for intermediate circlers, and definitely non-negative epsilon there for advanced. There are some open problems in the book. The book contains 12 articles which are adapted from the live sessions at the Berkeley Math Circle over the last decade. How many sessions at the BMC were there for the last 12 years? Now approaching 400, I'd say. Right, okay, so this is just 12 of them. And I will tell you a little bit about those 12. The very first session is Inversion in the Plane Part 1. It sounds pretty rough for American students, right, to start with geometry. This is geometry, okay? But literally, historically, this was the very first session 12 years ago. Or was it 11? 11 years ago, yes. So here you see an elephant inverted into something that looks like Aladdin's lamp, maybe? That's right. So this was given by me, and if you haven't seen me there, I'm in Australia. Okay, never mind. The second session is Combinatorics. We have to have a Combinatorics Part 1. And when you're reading the book, you'll see that some guy named Ramanujan is deciding whether he should have an ice cream or not. Now, who is doing this? There is Paul, the author of that session. Rubik's Cube by Tom Davis. Is Tom here? There you go. There are lots of players here in the audience. And so what you see here are some macros that he's constructing in hope of solving the whole cube. But this is part 1 of 3 parts. Upcoming in the future volumes. This is my favorite picture of Bill Clinton. Of Tom Davis, entertaining Bill Clinton. Okay, moving on, number theory. Well, we have to have one of those. This is my version of remainders and cycling remainders, how to solve such problems. And that's definitely not me. That's Fermat, as you might recognize, and Andrew Wiles, who also appear in that article. And at that point in the book, we realized that we really need to teach everyone how to do proofs. They have seen enough of everything, so they know that there is something called proofs. And we start from ground zero. This is Mira Bernstein. And one of her favorite problems there is about a K-dragon, which is a generalization of the usual chessboard dragon. We need more proof methods, so session 6 is on mathematical induction. And you may recognize what this is, right? The Tower of Hanoi, presented by Quan Lam. What you may not know is what these dogs are doing here. Well, towards the end of the session, he almost manages to prove that all dogs are identically the same. Okay, well, that's Quan, exactly in the same setting. You might think this is a picture of me, but, well, that was the only picture in which Quan was really smiling. So there you go. So let's clear up. This is half of the book. And mass point geometry comes where the author is trying to balance on a seesaw an elephant and an ant. And he got his idea from a much older guy who is doing this with the earth, right? You may remember who this guy is. Tom? Archimedes, that's right, there you go. And Tom himself, if you haven't seen him, but the girl next to him is the only female winner of the Brilliancy Award at the Berkeley Math Olympiad. More on proofs part 2, we need more of those by me and Mira. And so there you will see a robot climbing an infinite ladder. Pirates trying to get as much gold and kill each other. It's a violent section. And pigeons accidentally kissing each other. Complex numbers part 1 presents a very interesting idea where cubics, which are usually considered much more complicated than quadratics, turn out to be more friendly because they have roots. Yes? And this is the cover of, how do you say that name? Bombeli's algebra book. This is by Tatiana Shubin. There she is, and she's in the audience. Raise a hand. There you go. Stomp, games with invariants. Some serious fun here is being had by Sam. There you go, a chameleon, the pointless machine, and the game of Stomp with gophers. And well, you saw Sam earlier, but there he is once again. We are approaching the end. Last but one session is favorite problems at the Berkeley Math Circle. We go back to geometry. And this session is done by a graduate student, Ivan Matic, who is the assistant to the circle. And he does a very lovely job starting from one problem and going through the whole session based on it. And the final session in the book is on monovariants, part 1, with the subtitle Mansion Walks and Frog Migrations. And indeed, there is a castle which is to be gender balanced. We also study a lot of frog migrations in swamps, and this is done by Gabriel Carroll. How many people have heard of Gabriel Carroll? Okay. So not so many. Well, you should learn a little bit more about him, and I'll tell you later. But he was one of our first alumni from the Berkeley Math Circle. And what's more interesting, there is an appendix to this session. This is the epsilon bigger than 0 for advanced students. It is written by Evan O'Dorney, who will be one of the students competing here later on in the afternoon. And you may have heard of him because he, what? Not because he won the US Math Olympiad, not because he went to the International Math Olympiad as a 9th grader, right? That's right, he won the spelling bee on top of everything. There you go. So Evan did some real research in his article translating the original problem posed by Gabriel Carroll into a dual pebble pushing problem, very much like the clones problem I gave you, and eventually solving the whole problem. Okay, well, that's about the book. Actually, just the mathematics part of the book. The book contains another part about organization of the math circle. It has introduction and epilogue, and well, who reads these things? But if you were to read one of them, I'd say read the epilogue. Yet, we will start with introduction. Now, earlier today, you must have heard what a math circle is, right? You have a vague idea after hearing definitions after definition, right? I remember several years ago at New Orleans MAA joint meeting, we were sitting with lots of people from this audience and trying to decide on the definition of the math circle. And an hour was not sufficient for us to actually agree on that definition. How many people were at that meeting? Raise your hand. Oh, Paul, yes, yes. Tom? You were, right? Yeah, and Hugo, you were too. Yes, and Mark. And so it turns out that we actually had the definition in front of us because there was a quote from one circler who basically told us what the math circles are all about, and I'll read it for you. The Berkeley Math Circle was really critical in my development. It was the best method available not only to get a flow of mathematical ideas and problems to think about each week, but also to meet other interested students and professional mathematicians from all over the Bay Area. You get stimulation from exchanging ideas with other people that you don't get from reading books at home. And he continues, I can also testify to the usefulness of studying mathematics even for students who don't plan on doing it as a career. For someone who wants to go into law, policy analysis, philosophy, economics, or computer science, the kind of logical, abstract thinking that mathematics develops is really the best preparation. I realize that the circle is most interested in attracting students whose lifelong passion is for mathematics, but it also helps others along the way. So who is that person? It's Gabriel all over again. So Gabriel had a perfect IMO score at 2001, and he was a 4-time Putnam Fellow, and he's doing these days something rather non-trivial from a mathematical point of view. He's actually doing economics at MIT. So that's why, that's not the only why he's a non-trivial case, but Gabriel tried to do a lot more things than just mathematics. And in fact, the cartoons in this book were drawn by Gabriel while he was attending the Berkeley Math Circle sessions. Yes, during the session, so he could follow what's going on and at the same time draw the cartoons. The other thing from the introduction that I want to tell you about is, by whom is a math circle to be run? Or whom is a math circle to be run by? Okay. So I have a little bit from the book here with some passages taken out because they refer to the person, to that math teacher. And I want to see if we are going to guess who that math teacher is. Running a math circle, especially for a teacher, is a hard task, but it is possible. In the 60s, a veteran high school math teacher was working on his master's degree. While browsing in the library one day, he ran across the USSR Olympiad problem book. It contained problems written for talented 7th through 10th graders, yet he could not solve any of these so-called elementary problems. In his own words, my abstract algebra had been too abstract and I did not have enough concrete examples that I needed. I never took a class in number theory because it sounded too elementary. I developed the real number system starting from the Peano axioms, but I didn't really understand the fundamentals of the natural numbers, prime numbers. This was an epiphany for me. I felt as though I had been challenged by some force outside and I did not know how to respond. Well, for the next 30 years, that person studied Olympiad problem solving, first on his own, then through workshops and math circles in the SF Bay Area. He ran his own math circle at Blah High School and gave talks at just about all the other circles around. Even though at times he was only a few pages ahead of his students, he kept on learning and teaching problem solving because working on math circles had come to be a large part of his life. Although I have not attained my goal of becoming a true Olympiad problem solver, the journey I have made in pursuit of this goal has been one of the most rewarding endeavors in my life. So who is that guy? Tom Reich over there, once again. So he is that very teacher. Hence, a word to the middle and high school teachers. Are there any of those among us? Raise your hand. Okay, just a few. How many are faculty in a university? So more than that. Okay. So a word to the middle and high school teachers. Keep on reading the book. Okay, well, this book, despite moments of difficulty or confusion. For the motivated, persevering, uncaring teacher, there will always come a time when he or she will look back at the material, smile, and effortlessly deliver it to the students at his or her own math circle. Truly gratifying. All right, and the last piece from the introduction I want to point out is math circles and learning to be a mathematician. Now, you're probably all familiar with this quote by Andrew Wiles. Perhaps I can best describe my experience of doing mathematics in terms of a journey through a dark, unexplored mansion. You enter the first room of the mansion and it's completely dark. You stumble around bumping into the furniture, but gradually you learn where each piece of furniture is. Finally, after 6 months or so, you find the light switch, you turn it on, and suddenly it's all illuminated. You can see exactly where you are. Maybe I personally don't apply this principle in my math circle, at least not, within 6 months of solving each problem, but it's something along these lines that I try to incorporate in my math circle lectures. There are no manuals on how to become a mathematician. The book will give you tips and points to possible paths, but the art of being a mathematician can be mastered only through personal experience. A lot of people write to me, can we do a math circle online? Can we do it, I don't know, over the phone maybe? The personal experience cannot be replaced by anything else. The other media is also helpful, but without seeing the teacher, without asking the questions, it's just not the same. And there are two most important skills that you will acquire along the way, reading the book or going to a math circle, to think creatively while still obeying the rules, and to make connections between problems, ideas, and even theories. And a quote from our advisor here, Joe Harris from Harvard, he taught me that the best way to learn is from your own mistakes. And in some places in the book, you will see that. Because when you attempt to do a problem, most likely the first 1, 2, or 3 attempts are just not going to be the right one. So you have to learn from what you have done to find the right way. Nothing good comes for free. You will have to work hard, always with a pencil and paper in hand. Keep in mind that the math world is huge. You'll never know everything. But you'll learn where to find things, how to connect them and use them. The rewards will be substantial. I have seen too many teachers who are afraid to admit that they don't know something. And I personally know that the more I know, the less I know. The more I know, the less I know, if you know what I mean. And so we can turn this to our advantage in our math circles or in our classroom. In fact, some of the students are so advanced or they have such potential that they can quickly surpass what we can give them. And if we don't know something, then maybe those students will find it out. And this is what happened with Evan O'Dorney when I posed to him the problem given by Gabriel Carroll in a math circle this was a demonstration in San Jose. And Evan solved it in a month, and it ended in the book. So I did not know how to do the problem, and Gabriel admitted he did not know how to do it either. Okay, so where are we now? We're starting from the other end of the book, the epilogue. The culture of math circles. Well, all you need is love, right? There is more than one way to fall in love with mathematics, but many Eastern European mathematicians have come along the path of math circles, where they have learned for the first time that the world of math is larger than one could imagine, more interesting and more diverse. The math circle culture is ingrained in the societies of these countries. During the communist era, established mathematicians and pre-college teachers considered it their duty to expose the younger generation to the wonders of mathematics. And so they teamed together to found and run math circles. Mathematics was not the only subject worthy of a circle. Starting in the late middle or early high school, there were circles in chemistry, physics, biology, English, poetry, and literature. I tried many of these fields because the opportunities were there for me to explore. The math circles were only part of a large net of pre-college circles created to draw children and discover their talents. It was no more prestigious or cool to attend a soccer club or take music lessons than to be a member of, say, a high school physics circle. In fact, parents knew how important the advanced knowledge gained in circles would be for their children's future and hence enthusiastically supported circle presentation. Okay, but there is a problem here, right? Do you see it? Let's see it. There you go. So, Eastern European versus US math circles. There is a lot of things to be said about the comparison between the two, but I think one of the biggest items on the menu is the popularity. Everyone in Eastern Europe knew about the math circles. Children and parents alike were well aware of the opportunity to enroll and of the possibilities which successful participation might open in the student's future. Now, what portion of the US population has an inkling that math circles exist?
So have you invited Obama? Have you invited Obama to his tours?
I'm actually thinking I'm going to send this book to Michelle and tell her that it might be good for her 2 little kids and invite her to come to the math circles in the Bay Area. I'm still thinking how to phrase the letter to be short enough and strong enough, because I'm sure she has loads of things to read. And after she comes, I think we have a better chance of her coming here first and then bringing Obama too. What status do math circles have in the US society and its educational system? Unclear. Can they compare in popularity to membership of a high school football or debate team? No, they can't. So there you have a problem. What's the solution? Well, one way to resolve most of the problems associated with math circles in the United States is to start dreaming, right? Is to have a math circle at every college and university. I presented this idea again at this conference in New Orleans, and since then it has been clarifying and simmering in my mind, so I'm going to put it here in a more organized way for you. Right, so you will get rid of one problem and you will develop another problem. The professors organizing and running the math circles will receive a 1 or 2 course release from the math department. Remember, this is a dream, okay? Depending on the frequency, length, and intensity of the circle sessions. This will compensate for the huge effort involved in directing a math circle and will hopefully encourage more mathematicians to get involved in educating the talented youth in US. The math circle can be formally organized as a math course and also open to undergrads. Actually, this is already happening in San Francisco, isn't that right? Although the circles there are directed more towards math teachers rather than regular pre-college students. Undergraduate and graduate students, as well as interested postdocs and tenured faculty, can be vertically integrated in this model. This is happening in many places, in particular in the Berkeley Math Circle. And a reasonable, modest semester fee for non-university participants, pre-college students, teachers, and others will provide honoraria for the session leaders. The math department can provide secretarial and computing support and office supplies, as well as student assistant and web administrator. The Math Circle will be an invaluable math program offered to the local community and can be viewed as part of the math department's outreach activities. This network model will resolve transportation problems, at least for the urban and suburban areas, will mobilize previously disinterested math faculty, and will give some tangible and formal recognition to the work of the Math Circle leaders. The Math Circle leaders and the mathematicians, the faculty, are the most valuable resources for math circles, and they do really need to get some kind of formal recognition for this movement to go forward. I think we all agree on that. Okay, well, that's a dream. Is this dream viable? Can it happen? I can't answer this question, but I think there is another question that we can answer and we should answer. Does the United States need top-tier math circles? Well, you'll say, yeah, what's a top-tier math circle? And I will go back to the definitions of math circles. These 2 definitions that I will show you were coined by parents of the Berkeley Math Circle. So math circles are weekly math programs that attract middle and high school students to mathematics by exposing them to intriguing and intellectually stimulating topics rarely encountered in classrooms. Math circles vary in their organization, style of sessions, goals, but they have one thing in common: to inspire in students an understanding of and a lifelong love for mathematics. I think we can all agree on this very general definition. Now, for the top-tier math circles, they prepare our best young minds for their future roles as mathematics leaders. Sessions are taught by accomplished mathematicians and explore advanced mathematical areas. They provide an educational opportunity for the top pre-college mathematics students not offered in any other setting in the US educational system. So once again, the question, does the United States need top-tier math circles? And the answer is coming up. There is this gathering storm that I've been hearing about for so many years. There are a number of studies of the deteriorating situation in US math and science education and its impact on the scientific and technological presence of the United States in the world. To describe just how critical the situation is, we refer below to 3 such reports. There is the report from A Commitment to America's Future from 2005. The United States is losing its edge in innovation and is watching the erosion of its capacity to create new scientific and technological breakthroughs. Increased global competition, lackluster performance in mathematics and science education, and a lack of a national focus on renewing its science and technology infrastructure have created a new economic and technological vulnerability as serious as any military or terrorist threat. Now, that's a pretty strong statement, I'd say. The National Academy of Sciences published another report, Rising Above the Gathering Storm, about the need for the US to raise its capabilities in mathematics, science, and engineering. And, well, there is nothing really surprising in this report. The global competition for the talented individuals in mathematics, engineering, scientists, this competition has greatly intensified in recent years and will continue to do so as the rest of the world increases its technical capabilities and living standards. Well, with that financial situation going on, I'm not sure about the living standards, but definitely the technical capabilities in many countries around the world are increasing and becoming competitive to the United States. To remain competitive, the US needs to devote considerably more effort and resources to foster excellence in mathematics, science, and engineering. Okay, so let's look now at these other countries. The majority of talented individuals in these fields recruited by the United States, universities and technology companies are from China, Europe, India, and the former Soviet Union. See what this report from 2006 on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education says. This is, you may know it by the name STEM. Look at these numbers. China graduated in 2004 approximately 500,000 engineers. India, 1/5 of a million engineers. US graduated only 70,000 engineers, exactly as much as South Korea, which has 1/6 of the population of the United States. What does this mean? More than half of all engineering doctorates awarded in the United States go to foreign-born students, and in similar fields too, like computer science, electrical, civil, and mechanical engineering. And I'd say in mathematics too. I mean, you're just looking at me, right? Okay. And what's worse, there has been a steady increase in the percentage of US patents granted with a foreign origin, which includes foreign-owned companies and foreign inventors. In 1 decade, this number has increased from 18% to 48% in 2004. By now, it is probably more than half of foreign origin. Okay, so what do these foreign countries do differently from the United States? There are many differences, and each country is unique. India and China value technical education as a path to prosperity. Admission to technical schools there is based on rank in national exams. The US does not quite do the same thing, correct? In the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, mathematically talented individuals are identified very early and are provided with the resources needed to reach their full potential. Well, that is something very relevant to us, those who are aspiring to create more math circles and continue with the math circles that are running right now. Well, what can be done? Hung-Shi Wu, who is a professor of mathematics at UC Berkeley and has been involved in the education of US mathematics teachers for the last decade, and he has given plenty of talks to math teachers in probably the same auditorium. He was on 2 national panels on teacher preparation programs. There he is, and as you can see, he's from China originally, okay, foreign born, never mind. Main purpose, and by the way, I asked him to give a quote specifically for the Berkeley Math Circle book, and this is the exact quote that he gave. A main purpose of both panels is to address the crisis in teacher quality among math teachers so as to ensure the production of a large enough pool of mathematically literate students to fill our technological needs. However, to ensure that we also produce first-rate scientists and mathematicians, a different kind of approach would be necessary. This is where the math circles come in. It is programs like the math circles that can provide the needed guidance and stimulation for the cream of the crop of this pool. While the work done by the above-mentioned panels is designed to raise the floor to make our nation competitive in the global market, what the math circles do is to raise the ceiling in order to maintain our worldwide leadership position in science and technology. At a time of need in our nation's mathematics education, the work done in top-tier math circles, such as the Berkeley Math Circle and the San Jose Math Circle, is of vital importance. And I want to finish this part of the talk with a quote by yet another famous mathematician, and we will guess who this mathematician is. I think he might be in this building right now. I wish to state in no uncertain terms how important programs for our talented young people are to the future of this country. The best place to develop the highest and mathematical talent is in groups where young people can feed off each other's excitement, guided by the best mind in the field. The model of top-tier math circles has been honed over decades in other countries. An American version has been in place for a decade and has shown measurable and almost unbelievable results. Now is the time to make these programs a permanent feature of our educational landscape. The community is ready to assist in any way possible. Universities are happy to provide facilities. Professors are happy to volunteer their time. Parents are happy to spend countless hours. And the reason we do this is that when you see these kids catch fire, it takes your breath away. Who could it be who said all these words? Brandon? Any guesses? You know that guy? Ravi Vakil, a 4-time Putnam Fellow and Professor of Mathematics at Stanford University. Okay, so while it is unlikely that math circles will have a large impact on the value system of the American public, this is the truth, the sad truth as it is, the top-tier math circles in the United States do play a significant role in meeting the challenges described above by preparing our best young minds for their future role as mathematics, science, and technology leaders. With your help, we can establish a dense network of math circles across the United States. Okay. That was the organizational part where I had to read lots of other people's thoughts in order to convince you. Now it's your part. We have about 10 minutes, right? To do the fun part.
Why don't we each invite 5 people to encourage them to become leaders of math circles?
Say that again?
Encourage 5 of our friends to become leaders of math circles.
Yes, that's a great idea, and I can tell you the story that is depicted in this book. The story from before the math circle started in the Bay Area. So there was a conference of teachers, for teachers by MSRI here, and there were about maybe 25, 30 teachers from the area. They came, we gave presentation on math circles, everyone was ecstatic. Yes, this is a great idea, and so on. And then we asked for those teachers who are planning on doing a math circle the next year to raise their hand? And how many do you think raised their hand? None. None, 0. So it's not so easy. And
Give a tax deduction.
no, there you go. Definitely, Obama should come and see our math circle.
For math.
Yes.
Question. When you say that it's unlikely that it will have any significant impact on the value system of American public, I'm not a mathematician. I'm coming from industry. Okay. There are numerous workshops, seminars for CEOs and this type of people where they are taught the out-of-the-box thinking. They pay huge money for that, and actually it is way too late to teach them the out-of-the-box thinking at this age. But if you market it, advertise it this way, it's possible that it will sink into the American public.
Advertise it how? Which way?
As out-of-the-box thinking that is necessary not only in mathematics or not only in science, but in everyday life.
That's right.
And
you know what?
In entrepreneurial.
There is a subsection on out-of-the-box thinking in the epilogue. If you read something from this book, it should be the epilogue. So I absolutely agree with you that, and it doesn't go just for mathematics. As you saw, one of our alumni himself has listed all of these other areas where the out-of-the-box or training by mathematical circles applies.
But this is the way how you can market it to the general.
Yes? Actually, I was thinking of going and doing the problems with you and maybe having a discussion, taking questions afterwards. Or how many people want to see the solutions to those problems? How many people? What?
Want to work on them.
You want to work on them. Well, you know what? I have a solution to the first problem, and I have a few remarks for the other two, not quite solutions. So what do you say?
I won't listen.
You won't listen. Okay, well
But
then.
maybe others will.
Can we have a session towards the end, a 15-minute presentation for the problems tomorrow afternoon?
You end at 4:50, why not take the 10 minutes and end at 5?
Okay, so then we will think about tomorrow afternoon and we'll solve the problems. I'm not moving ahead with the transparency, so I can take more questions.
Programs surrounded by very bright minds, and making systems in certain schools, but it was Russian kids to be surrounded by those people. So
How many people went on the trip organized by MSRI a few years ago to St. Petersburg in Russia? Okay, so a lot of the people who went on the trip are here. And where did we go? We went to the math circles and we went to the math schools. They are both related to each other and complement each other in different ways.
Doesn't New York have that kind of?
Yeah, who is from New York?
In Mobile there is a school. Alabama Math School for Math and Science. It's a boarding school. Mobile, Alabama. It's boarding public school. Students all over Alabama apply there. There are such schools. The problem are there teachers who can teach in those schools. And we have a Russian teacher who is teaching there. So
There are some schools like
Teachers don't
that.
know the problem,
I mean,
then
Exeter Academy is one example where the current coach of the U.S. math team is a math teacher in that school, zooming thing. So, of course, there are some schools like that, but they're so spread throughout the United States. Yeah, they're boarding schools.
The New York public school system has that, doesn't it? In New York?
Bronx Science and Stuyvesant.
There are some schools like that, definitely. Do you think there are enough of them?
No.
No, okay.
There may be enough in New York.
Okay, yes.
Right. Well, there's a difference between American culture and Eastern European culture. You mentioned the math circles are part of circles for physics and many intellectual disciplines. Where the American psyche is in technological vision. In other words, if we can beat making an A-bomb before the Germans, we'll do it. If we can put men on the moon before the Russians, we'll do it. If we can build cheaper cars than the Germans, we'll do it. And so the circles environment that can get a mass audience in the U.S. are the ones that lead to some type of technological vision. In other words, high schoolers are willing to go out and become millionaire webinars and not have degrees because that's part of American vision. So as a devil's advocate, I would essentially say the math circles have to be part of a larger circle environment.
Yeah.
And my comment is, in fact, that's what I'm working on, which is a mini circles where the mini is miniaturization technology, specifically because of what I just said.
Well, as you saw, I absolutely agree with you. As you saw, all of those reports that I cited, they are not just about math or science, but also technology, and primarily about technology. And you saw engineering. Engineers are cited as the major downfall in the educational system in the United States.
It has to be a very specific vision. You can say, we're going to beat the Chinese and the Indians in terms of putting the best technology in the world. If you can say, the circle is going to give you the skills and the social network to do that, it will just explode.
The Berkeley Math Circle parents have put a proposal which just for general sponsors, and one of their visions was very close to what you said, because they are coming not from academia, those parents, but from industrial environment, and that's exactly from the viewpoint. They were even talking about the intellectual, what was it called? When you create something and then you have property. Intellectual property, that's right. That was the thing that they were talking about, that angle.
Well, that's actually an error. Actually, open source public intellectual property is where it has to go or it'll fail. But we have that sector that understands that too. So it's just they'll organize it where the people who are trying to do, we want the property, will fail because of greed.
Any other comments? Yes.
Great way to propagate. So, because if somebody has a kid the same, all those who actually say it this way, but active parents can go to great lengths to provide for their children, and I found that starting young and kind of the way to go, because it's easier in people's mind to run something for younger kids. Professionals may disagree, but people kind of feel it's easier. But there is a drop-off around middle school when people, you can see, say, in an area, you can see 10 circles for ages up to 10, 12, and then. So how can you continue this? There is kind of a disconnect between young circles and older circles.
Yeah, I agree. I myself was interested in the middle and high school circles because that's the circles that I attended in Bulgaria. I don't recall that there were any circles for elementary school kids. Maybe the youngest kids that attended math circles in Bulgaria were in grade 3, but they really became popular around grade 5 and on. And the understanding is that up to that age, the math classes were so good that they were fulfilling the role. And then the math circles would supplement when they got to a level where they could work on more complicated problems. Here, I don't think this is the situation here. And in fact, next fall, there is going to be a Russian mathematician coming here to MSRI, and she contacted me. She has a son in grade 2, and she said, I will just organize a math circle if you help us with a little bit the organization and get the parents. Just send the message to the parents, and that will do it. And that's exactly what's happening. Parents are contacting her, and they're setting up a elementary school math circle next year, which will be loosely linked to our circle. They can use our webpage. We can put materials there too. Okay, so I think we are running over time. There was last questions. Who really wants to say yes?
Yeah, well, there's a big emphasis right now on standards, but when I look at the way that the standards are so it seems to me that the whole standards thing is politically very.
I probably think that all of us here agree very passionately with what you are saying about the standardized tests. And I can tell you even that the first and the second round of the US Math Olympiad are essentially multiple choice tests, AMC and ANY. They do test on questions that not all of them are studied in the high school curriculum. But my point here is that at the Berkeley Math Circle, I don't even encourage intense preparation for even those tests, even though you need them in order to go to GUSMO. We have only 2 sessions of preparation for them. If I wanted to get as many kids through AMC and AIM at the Berkeley Math Circle, those sort of standardized tests from our viewpoint, I could have the whole year of session trainings. And you know what the participation would be then in the Math Circle? It will go through the roof. Because those tests are even considered when kids go to college, they write their AMC and ANY scores. But I don't do this because we will lack in solving only this type of problems. We will lack exactly what you are saying, the imagination and the whole variety of other things. For instance, you can't make a proof on those sheets. It's only, fill in a box for the right answer. Maybe we should...
Yeah, so I hate to stop the discussion too, so maybe it's just an invitation. If people want to stick around here during coffee break, they don't need the caffeine, please stay here and keep discussing. But everybody else should have at least access to the caffeine. So. And let's thank Zvezda again.